The Color of Fall, Chapter 5. Amber spent most of the afternoon with Sam and his children at the diner, and as the days slipped into evening, she found herself lingering longer than she had intended. There was something magnetic about Sam's presence, gentle yet strong, and his kids, with their boundless energy, filled the room with laughter and warmth. As the last few customers left and the quiet of the early evening settled in, Amber glanced out the window. The sun was beginning to set, casting a golden glow over the town. She looked back at Sam, who was wiping down tables, his kids helping out with the last bits of cleanup. The thought of leaving felt heavier with each passing moment. "Do you have a moment to step outside?" Amber asked, gathering her coat and scarf. Sam looked up, a surprised smile touching his lips. "Yeah, I think I can spare a few minutes." He called over to Ethan and Lucy, asking them to lock up after he stepped out. Amber led him out of the diner, and they walked in comfortable silence down Main Street. The sound of crunching leaves beneath their feet. The chill of the evening air was bracing, but somehow she felt warmed by his presence beside her. "I haven't had a chance to really see the town," Amber said, glancing at Sam. "Would you mind showing me around?" He chuckled, his breath visible in the crisp air. "I'd be happy to, though there's not much to see. It's a small place, as you know." "I think that's what I like about it," Amber replied, gazing up at the trees, their branches swaying gently in the wind. "Everything here feels real, like it has history." They wandered down a narrow street that led them toward the edge of town, where the trees grew thicker and the houses were older, their exteriors weathered but well kept. Sam pointed out a few spots along the way. The old library where he said the town held its annual Christmas reading, and the small movie theater that had been running since the 1950s. Amber listened intently, taking in each detail as though it were part of a story. Sam spoke of Maplewood with a fondness that made her smile, and as they walked she felt the distance between them shrinking, their footsteps falling into rhythm with one another. Eventually they arrived at a park on the outskirts of town, where an old wooden bridge spanned a narrow creek. The sound of the water trickling over rocks filled the quiet evening, and Amber felt an inexplicable pull toward the bridge. She stepped onto it, feeling the wood creak beneath her weight, and looked out over the water. "This place is beautiful," she murmured, leaning against the railing. "It's like stepping back in time." Sam joined her, his gaze focused on the water. "Yeah, I used to come here a lot after my wife passed. It was a place to clear my head, to remind myself that life goes on, even when it feels like everything has stopped." Amber glanced at him, her heart aching at the quiet pain in his voice. She reached out, placing a hand on his arm. "I'm sorry, Sam. I can't imagine how hard that must have been." He offered a small, grateful smile. "Thank you. It was tough, but I had to keep going, for the kids mostly. They needed me, and this town, well, it helped me more than I could have imagined." They stood in silence, watching as the last rays of the sun disappeared behind the trees, leaving the world painted in shades of twilight. Amber felt an urge to share something of herself to match the honesty he had given her. "My life back in the city," she began, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's fast-paced. There's always something to do, someone to see, a deadline to meet. But it's empty. I thought I wanted that success, excitement, the thrill of it all. But coming here, seeing the way you live, the way this town works, it makes me wonder if I've been chasing the wrong things." Sam met her gaze, his eyes soft and understanding. "Sometimes you don't know what you need until you find it." Amber nodded, feeling the weight of his words settle over her. She realized then how much she had needed this break, this glimpse into a life she hadn't known she was missing. And in that moment, standing beside Sam on the old wooden bridge, she felt a sense of peace, as if the world had finally slowed down enough for her to breathe. As they walked back to the diner, the street lights flickered on, casting a warm glow over the town. They didn't speak much, but the silence between them was comfortable, filled with the quiet understanding that was beginning to grow. When they reached the diner, Sam turned to her, his expression hesitant but hopeful. "Would you like to come by again tomorrow? Maybe we could go for a walk, see a bit more of the town?" Amber's heart lifted, and she nodded, her smile wide. I'd like that a lot." They stood there for a moment longer, the warmth of their shared connection lingering in the crisp evening air. As Amber walked back to her guest house, she couldn't shake the feeling that her time in Maplewood was far from over. There was something here, something real and grounding, that was calling her to stay. And as she turned back one last time, catching a glimpse of Sam silhouetted against the diner's soft light, she knew that Maplewood had already begun to change her. And maybe, just maybe, she had started to change him, too. If you like this chapter of The Color of Fall, please leave a comment, like, and don't forget to share this with your fellow listeners. Stay tuned for Chapter 6.